welcome to 7:30. I'm Matt Wordsworth. The Education Minister has delivered the news that parents at 6 schools did not want to hear. They were being shut down. But at one school, they were promised their Year 11 students would be allowed to at least continue another year to finish grade 12. That was denied during the week, but the ABC has obtained recordings that show otherwise. The Minister, John Paul Langbroek, joined me in the studio to talk about school closures earlier today. Minister, why did those 6 schools need to close?
Well, it's important to look at all of the schools that we have, and we have over 1,200, and we have a limited amount of resources. That while we're planning to build new schools, and we've already announced 11 new schools in growth areas around Queensland, we need to balance that against looking at the schools that we currently have, some of which have declining enrolments, and we looked at that along with a whole bunch of other criteria, such as their curriculum that they're able to offer, their cost per student, accessibility, other schools that may be in surrounding areas, and also the submissions that were received from the parents and students themselves.
There have been some passionate and detailed submissions, and if I could start with Fortitude Valley, for instance, enrolments were actually increasing there. In the last 4 years, they've gone from 29 students to 56. The cost per student is similar to nearby schools, and it's a booming area, so why close that one?
Well, with Fortitude Valley, we've made sure that we are planning for increases at surrounding schools. So there are other schools like Brisbane Central and Wilston and other schools that we know, or Windsor State School, that we can accommodate them at, and we're going to make those provisions.
And you talk of economy, but you just spent $39,000 on a playground at Fortitude Valley State School and another $150,000 on painting and maintenance. It seems like such a waste.
Well, because we hadn't made decisions about school closures until the last couple of weeks, our maintenance program, which was fixing a problem that we inherited from the previous government of up to $300 million, was something where we rolled out $160,000 for each school. Now, there have been lots of schools closed over the last few years that also had millions of dollars spent from school halls from the previous Rudd government. So these are the sorts of things that we continue our maintenance programs, and there are always things that we're spending money on in schools. It doesn't mean that because they may be slated for closure, because these weren't until May this year, that we wouldn't spend anything on them in the preceding years, or that we don't appreciate the work that's been done by P&Cs and by willing parents. Old
Yarranlee, which is on Griffith University's campus, you can't even sell that because the land belongs to Griffith University.
That's true, but there are other issues to be considered, and I think if we were to put the facts out quite clearly, that say, here's a school of 18 students in downtown or in the middle of Brisbane, and yet within the Gonski Review, and if we were to consider that as one of the parameters by which we judge these things, the Gonski Review actually said that small schools were at a disadvantage. So why would we have
this one has its own unique nature because, and your own cabinet colleague Ian Walker in lobbying you said the role the school plays in educating teachers in single teacher or multi-level teaching is irreplaceable because it's a one teacher school. That kind of facility is irreplaceable.
And I can understand Minister Walker making that point as the local member. I'd expect him to make a detailed submission, and he certainly did. But we actually have 9 universities in Queensland that offer education courses, and that's not the only place in which one-teacher schools are, or teachers in one-teacher schools are prepared for going out to those schools.
It's right there on the campus, though.
And that's true, but we still have to balance that against whether their students are getting the best education, given that they're not, their kids, if they're in Prep 1, 2 and 3, they're probably in one class, and the question is whether that is the best education for those students.
Okay, to Nyanda State High School, that's going to close this year. Year 11s will have to move at a very pivotal point in their education. But your own department guidelines say that any closure of a secondary school will take place over an extended period, i.e. up to 2 years. This will minimise disruption to senior students. Why didn't you do it in this case?
We didn't want to have a cohort of students, and I think it might be up to about 60 students who would be in Year 12 in a campus that, if we closed the rest of it, would just have them there on the campus.
Now, I want to play you a clip, and you would have seen it already, but I'd really like to get your reaction. It's from the school captain at Nyanda High School, Felix Gibson.
Year 12s will be able to graduate at the end of the year, but the grade 11s were promised that they would graduate from Nyanda State High School at the end of next year.
So I just want to put on the table that Felix Gibson is a member of the Labor Party, but was there a promise for the Year 11s to stay there until they finish Year 12?
No. Well, certainly not by me. So, as I understand, there's been something put out there by the local federal member who at some stages said that I said it, which is not true, and then that it may have been by a consultant, which I can't comment about, or that it might have been someone from the department. So I can't comment about the federal member who's going every which way on this, depending on the day.
Well, I want to play you another clip. It's from Jan Taylor, your consultant that was in charge of consulting with the school communities, and this was at a school meeting in May.
The only answer we've got is that any of Year 11 children at this school have finished Year 12 at this school. Guaranteeing that? That's a guarantee that's been given to us by DIT.
So that's a guarantee?
Well, that's now something that I have to respond to, that I said to you that I said a moment ago that I wasn't aware if the consultant may have said it, and that's the first time I've seen that.
You were asked about this on Wednesday. You said you would look into it?
Sure, well, as I say, you've just shown it to me for the first time.
So was there a promise made by DEET? A guarantee even?
Well, that's something that I'm now going to have to investigate.
Did you make any promises?
No, as I said, I certainly didn't, because I actually didn't go to that school.
OK, well, just one more clip. This is from Jan Taylor at another school meeting.
Mm-hmm.
If a closure does occur, Year 11s will move straight into Year 12 at this school. So they will finish Year 12 here. So that's a guarantee that the ministry's made, and that will stay in place.
That's pretty clear, isn't it?
Well, that's a comment that the consultant has made, and as I say, either it's on advice that she's had from the department, as opposed to me saying it specifically, but I'll certainly make sure that I find out the details there.
Parents are saying that there was a room of 60 people who were also told the same thing by your regional director.
Well, once again, that regional director is a representative of the department.
So they've been promised by the department, by a regional director, senior member of the department, and also by an independent consultant who says that they were your words as well. Can you understand why the parents think that that should be a guarantee?
Well, I can understand that in this specific case where we're speaking about the Year 11s for next year, and that's why I can give you the commitment that I'm going to, of course, look into this and investigate it, as I said the other day.
But are you just going to knock some heads together in the department and say, why did you go and say that? Or are you actually going to consider their request, given it's part of your own policy and given that they were promised this, why don't you just let the Year 11 stay another year?
Well, Matt, it's important that we look at this in the cold, clear light of day, and given that you've just shown me those clips now...
It couldn't be clearer. It's in your own
true.
policy department guidelines that you should shut it over 2 years and allow the least amount of disruption to Year 11s. And they were also promised it by more than one person on more than one occasion.
And given that I've just seen that, I'll make sure that I look into this and make sure that I advise you of any decision, as I will that community.
So it is possible that you will change your mind?
Well, no, I'm not going to change my mind here on your show, but I've said, as far as the information you've just shown me, I'm going to make sure that I investigate that and get to the bottom of that.
The parents are hoping that you'll meet with them. Will you meet with them now?
Well, I'm not going to meet with them now because I'm sitting here with you. But, you know, obviously, if there needs to be some clarity given to them about the decisions that have been made and clarify the situation that you've just presented to me, then, of course, I'm prepared to do that.
OK, Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Good to talk to you.
2 years ago, locals battled off a plan for a massive quarry in a rural area. Now they say a state government planning proposal has brought the fight to their door once again. Kathy McLeish reports from the Scenic Rim.
Nathan Overall thought he'd found the perfect